Welcome, welcome everyone. We see you making your way into the webinar. We will get started in just one moment. Great. Hello, hello everyone. We're so excited that you are here. We understand that some of you may be logging on at a later time, looking at a recording. We know it is the middle of April. Some of you may be on spring break. Others may be deep into recitals and theater performances and finals and or other different pieces that may be important to you. And so we're so excited that you decided to spend your time with us today. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I will go ahead and get us started for this evening. My name is Janessa Dunn. I'm Director of Admissions here at Skidmore College, and I want to begin by sharing, once again, congratulations to the class of 2030. We are so excited for you, whether you have already chosen to attend Skidmore or to consider other institutions. We know that this is a momentous time for you, and so we want to cherish that as much as absolutely possible. And given our conversation today, whether you are tuning in this evening, this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where you all are from the world, this particular session will be recorded and will be available to you in your admission portal, your applicant portal, in about 24 hours. And so just so you know, you're welcome to replay as much as you like regarding this conversation. I will also share before I introduce our wonderful faculty spotlight this evening. We do have a series of wonderful virtual sessions that we have been able to host with a number of faculty representing environmental studies and sciences to political science to the arts to Spanish to gender studies, etc. And so we do encourage you to take a look at our virtual webinar portal, amongst others, to learn a little bit more of deep dives regarding our faculty here. But our conversation today will be really focused on the student-faculty relationships. We are really excited to actually have wonderful Dr. Becca Johnson with us, who will be able to share a little bit more about her experience. Dr. J, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, Janessa. Thanks so much. And yes, congratulations to the class of 2030 and to all of our incoming transfer students also. We are always super selective, and this year was no different. And so regardless of where you decide to spend the next few years in college, you should be very proud of your accomplishments so far for being accepted. My name is Rebecca Johnson. I go by Dr. J. That's what the students named me my first year at Skidmore 19 years ago. I am a professor of psychology and neuroscience. I'm chair of the psychology department, and I'm very involved in the sciences and also in the first year experience program at Skidmore. I'm a cognitive psychologist, so I study the way that the mind works. And specifically, my research area is in the psychology and neuroscience of reading. Yeah, so that's me.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Dr. J. I appreciate that. And there were a few different pieces that you just mentioned. You mentioned research, you've mentioned the first year experience. You've also mentioned nearly 20 years of incredible teaching experience working with students at Skidmore specifically. And so, Dr. J, can you start by sharing with us why Skidmore and why for almost 20 years?
Great question. Yeah, so when I was a graduate student, finishing up my PhD and on the job market looking for a professor job, I was looking for a place where I could be and. So the place with an and culture. So I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I went to a small liberal arts school. I loved those close-knit faculty-student relationships, the opportunities to be parts of clubs and have leadership positions and take all sorts of different types of classes and not have to kind of like conform to one sort of type of student or another, but to be my own person and explore all sorts of interests. So I definitely wanted to be a teacher, primarily. However, along the way in college and in graduate school, I fell in love with research. I wanted to keep doing science forever, and science is expensive, right? You need high-tech equipment, and you need funds for participant payment and for travel, and you've got to be have a lot of time to dedicate to writing and presenting. And so when I was looking for colleges, there are some really excellent schools out there that focus solely on teaching and have no research labs. There are other schools that are really excellent at research and, pull in millions of dollars worth of grants and have graduate schools and postdoctoral fellows and visiting scholars filling their labs. But then there are just a few places that I found that really do both really well. So I usually describe my job as 50% teaching, 50% research. And I wanted to be at a place like that. I didn't want to have to give up this new love of research to be the teacher that I always wanted to be. I wanted to be at a place where, it would be okay and, not just okay, but, actually encouraged for me to also curate an exhibit at our Tang Teaching Museum, which I've done. I wanted to be at a place where it would be great to bring students to conferences. I wanted to be at a place where I could also, have students go for 4 days on a field trip to Washington, D.C. to learn all about words, the power of words, how we process words, how we memorialize individuals through words. And Skidmore has been a place where I can do where I can be and and our students get that too, right? So our students can come here and they can study abroad and double major and be president of SGA and start a new club and so that's just so wonderful. It's just very fulfilling. Where again, I don't have to just focus on one thing, and my students don't either. But instead, I have this ability to play and explore all sorts of intersections and interdisciplinarity that I wouldn't necessarily have been able to do if I had to choose teaching over research or vice versa. Yeah. So, and really along with that, Janessa, I love teaching and I love research, but what I have found by being at Skidmore is that what I really, really love is teaching students how to do research. And at bigger schools that have graduate programs and postdocs, they're doing excellent research, and but the focus is not on the undergraduate experience, right? The focus is on getting those graduate students through their master's thesis and then through their doctoral dissertations and finding them jobs in industry or in academia. Um, and here, the focus is on 17 to 23-year-olds, right? Like this age where congratulations, you're an adult and you don't know what you're doing. And we didn't either when we were that age. And and I just love this opportunity where we throw you into the deep end of the pool. That's what's happening right now, regardless of where you
Yes.
go. But
Yes.
at Skidmore, you're not going to drown because you've got, so many people sitting on the sides, waiting to jump in and help you out whenever you need it. And so it provides so much opportunity for growth across your 4 years, so much support for your individual interests and individual needs and individual wants. And so I just love that, here the undergraduates are the ones who are getting the training. They're the ones that we're focusing on because we don't have graduate students or postdocs, murkying the waters or distracting us from our true love, which is undergraduate education.
Which is absolutely amazing in so many beautiful ways. And I promise you, if you see a little bit of tears from me, it's allergies this evening. And so my eyes are deciding to rebel against the pollen that's happening right now. Speaking of science, I'm sure there's probably some really great research there. But Dr. J, what you've mentioned in so many beautiful ways is really thinking about the do both, the creative thought matters in ways that transcend even your discipline in psychology and really teaching students how to navigate, how to be ushered into this academic space. And so you mentioned a little bit earlier about the first year experience. And I know tomorrow night, our first year students will be hearing from Dr. Rachel Rodell and Ryan Holmesy regarding the academic advising, the transition in a first year experience. But Dr. J, as a professor who has taught one of those seminars, who has been with our students year after year, how would you best support or how would you best describe what that level of support looks like for a student as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to preface this response by saying that I have 5 children, and my oldest is a senior in high school. So I have been visiting lots of colleges this past couple of months, as maybe you all are. So first of all, like solidarity to all the parents and caregivers and support people out there. I know what you're going through. Um, and so one thing that has really stood out to me, and I've always loved this about Skidmore, but what it has become more on my mind as I've been visiting other colleges and seeing what they have to offer and what they're lacking, is our very robust, super supportive first year experience program. It really is unique. There are some schools that will have like a required first year class, which might be like a writing course or like a welcome to college. Like let me like give you a campus tour and kind of or like an orientation sort of class. And ours is not like that at all. So you will get a choice of a number, so like 45 different Scribner seminar topics. And all of these are interdisciplinary. So it's not just a psychology class or just a history class or just an education class, but it'll combine multiple disciplines so that way you can really look at a topic from multiple lenses, right? So like how do historians think about something differently than scientists who might be different than artists? And so you will get one of your top 3 Scribner seminar options, and the faculty can pick any topic that they want to teach a Scribner seminar on. And so what that means is they are picking the one thing that they love more than anything else, and then approaching it from so many angles. So as an example, mine is, it's called Reading Minds. And unfortunately, we do not learn ESP or how to actually read people's minds. This is like it's too bad for some of the students who don't end up reading the course description, but they still end up loving the course. But instead, it is a survey of the history and science of literacy, right? So I mentioned before that I'm a cognitive scientist who studies reading, including the mental and neurological underpinnings of this amazing skill that we've invented as a culture. But we also talk about like the history of writing systems, right? Like how did we invent writing? Like how did that take place? We talk about the impact of the printing press, right, on all sorts of different cultural and scientific revolutions and religious reformations. We talk about how reading should be taught based on what we know about how skilled reading takes place. We also talk about dyslexia and different types of reading disorders and what are those underlying causes? What happens when somebody has a traumatic brain injury and is now no longer able to skillfully read and navigate their world as they used to? And then we also talk about the future of reading. We talk about audiobooks. We talk about the influence of AI as authors. And so we really cover a whole bunch beyond just, the psychology of reading. So that's what a Scribner seminar is. However, what makes it so unique and different is that Your Scribner Seminar professor is your academic advisor until you declare your major. So for the first 2 years of your academic experience, you will have that person as your number one fan on campus, right? They see you, they do summer advising with you, so they meet you over Zoom during the summer. They learn who you are and what kind of academic interests you have. They help you pick your courses for the fall and every semester until you're ready to, leave the nest and declare a major within Skidmore. So you've got that person as like your advocate, right? Who's not only teaching you like how to be a good writer and how to be a good reader and a good thinker and how to speak in a class confidently and respectfully among your peers, but you also have this wonderful advising relationship with them. What's more is that you also get a peer mentor. So this is an upper class student who has successfully navigated the social and academic challenges in transitioning from high school to college, and they attend all the every seminar class with you, and they also lead a 1 hour seminar session every week, which is focused on these academic and social transitions to college. Right. So, like, what resources do we have on campus? Like, what is study abroad and why would I might want to do it? What opportunities are there in the summer? Where's the library and how can it be helpful? What's the writing center? As well as things like alcohol use and abuse and maintaining healthy relationships, mental health awareness, and physical health awareness. And so, right, we've like built in all of these structures, right, that are there to help support you make this transition to college. So you not only have like this professor who's your biggest advocate on campus for a long time, even after they declare their major, I'm like, just come back and see me anytime, and they always do. But you also have like a big brother or sister, right? And so you've got this, if you're like, I don't know how to study for a test, you can go to, the peer mentor who might be a little less intimidating than me, and be able to get help from them too. So again, I've been to so many colleges, and I know you all have too. And our first year Scribner seminar is just such an important support system. When again, you're being thrown into the deep end of the pool, and you really just need and want those kind of supports.
Dr. J, I'm so grateful that you explained it in that particular way. Not only the structure of the program itself and the really the distinctive nature of the Scripner seminar, but also thinking about the wraparound support, the community that a student is forming as they make their transition to college, whether that is from here in upstate New York or coming from across the globe for several of our students as well. And so I'm super grateful that you were able to share that in more depth. I imagine that we may have some questions that may be coming up in the Q&A for those who will be making their way in. So please feel free to ask your questions. Yes, Dr. J is wearing the right shirt today. Ask me anything in many different ways because Dr. J not only supports students who are interested in psychology, interested in the areas of interest. That she specializes. But the beauty of the liberal arts education, specifically at Skidmore, is that we attract students from across the institution, across disciplines. And so, Dr. J, can you talk a little bit about the student who may be thinking about management and business, or the visual arts, or the Tang? I'm wearing my Tang shirt today, as well, about what that type of mentorship looks like for you, and even what you have observed from your colleagues and the partnerships across departments as well.
So, at some institutions they have like an advising center, right? Where you go and that's the person that will help you register for classes. That is not what we do at all. So all of our advisors are, full-time professors who have active research labs and teach full classes. And so again, you will have that first year seminar professor as your advisor until you declare a major. So that can be as late as right before spring break of your sophomore year. And so, I've taught my Scrivener seminar a lot. It is my favorite class to teach, although I feel like I say that about all the classes I teach. But today I will say it's my Scrivener seminar. Um, And but we also, so I have students in there who are psychology majors or English majors. I get a lot. Sometimes education studies who are interested in like how children develop the skill of reading. But I also have, right now, I have a pre-engineering student. I have a management and business student. I have an art history major. I have a math major, right? And the great thing about that is that at Skidmore, all of the advisors get trained on advising. Right? So we have this fantastic like workshop and also handouts where like I know how to help a math major make progress on figuring out whether or not math is their thing before they're ready to commit to that. And so even if you don't, even if you don't end up declaring the major that your Scribner seminar professor is housed in, you will get excellent, excellent advice in terms of navigating the all college requirements and figuring out what you might be interested in academically before you declare. Janessa, at this point, I'll also mention one of the things that I love about Skidmore. There are five main things. We've already covered two, so I'm I'm filtering these in when I can. But one of the things I really love are what I call play credits. So again, this is kind of unique to Skidmore, and that is we have all college requirements, which we think are just really essential, boiled down essentials to what we want you to know to be able to really think about how disciplines differ in terms of how they think about what truth might be, for example. And those will make up no more than 30 of your 120 credits to graduate, right? I say no more than because you can often double count them. A lot of them you'll do through your major anyway, right? And so it's really not a total of, it's not really 30 totally separate credits, but let's say 30, okay? Your major will take up about 40 of your credits. It kind of ranges from 30 to 50, depending on what you major in. But let's go with 40 for now. So now we're at 70 of your 120 to graduate. So that gives you 50, what I call play credits. This is my invented term, which now has started to spread. I hear people talking about play credits. I'm like, I want some money for that or something. So play credits, right? It's like you just need the credits, but you can choose your own adventure and how you spend those. And I have seen students over my past 19 years spend their play credits in a whole different wide range of ways. So some students will come into Skidmore completely undecided in terms of what they want to do. They're strong academically in so many areas, right? They have all the doors open and they will spend their play credits early on in their first 2 years, dabbling in a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Some of them might be their all college requirements too, but I say, what sounds most interesting? A lot of students don't have opportunities to take neuroscience or art history or anthropology in high school. And so, they might not even know what that is. So try it out and see if you like it. And if you do like it, then let's do it again, right? Let's take another class. And if they end up pivoting and saying, nope, actually, I changed my mind. I want to do sociology instead. There's plenty of time to get in those 40 credits to finish out your major and graduate on time. There's plenty of time. I've seen other students spend their play credits by double majoring, right? They're one of those and students. And so they say, I'm really passionate about neuroscience, but also, social work. And so they will double major, and that's definitely doable. And there's still actually some play credits to spare. Other students will double down in their major. They'll say, I knew I wanted to do psychology. I've always wanted to do psychology. So, we only require 11 courses for our major, but I've seen students take, 20 or 24 psychology classes, like try to take everything that we offer, including all the internships and all the research opportunities for credit, all the independent studies and, special topics courses. And that is a perfectly great way to spend your play credits. And so, right, there's just lots of possible models for this. And so Skidmore's a great place to be able to figure out what is out there. Because again, you don't get to see everything in high school. And so this is a great place to get to see some more stuff to figure out if you want to pursue those things or not.
I love your term play credits, Dr. J. I think that's very fitting in a lot of ways, in so many beautiful ways, but also the way that you broke it down in terms of, the different pathways that a student chooses, even if they know that when a student enrolls at Skidmore, they may know exactly what they want to do. And so they may go to the latter example that you've mentioned, doubling down on, X, major, or you may have these opportunities to explore, to be exposed to areas that were unbeknownst, prior to being exposed. And so I appreciate that so deeply. So Dr. J, you have had, several graduates, alumni, under your wings, if you will, whether they were part of your FYE seminar, Scribner seminar courses, or going, particularly going into cognitive psychology in your discipline. Can you share some examples of what that trajectory looked like for some of your favorite alumni, and what that means to you?
Yeah, Janessa will say that so the psychology department will regularly bring students to present at Eastern Psychological Association, which is a national conference. And we will have our students present alongside graduate students and professors from other institutions. And so we were there it was held in Boston this year in March, and we try to coordinate like an alumni event along with that because we have a lot of alumni who end up in Boston for one reason or another. And so it's just this wonderful opportunity to see these students who have been in my lab, years ago and never overlapped with these current students, and allow them to share, where they are now, right? It provides this really great informal mentoring session where students can ask questions, about like, how do I get a job or what should I be thinking about as I'm a junior in college? It provides networking, right? So for making those connections to get the ins on different jobs. And again, I love it because, we get great food and get to get caught up with these students who are just thriving after graduation, even though they left me. So that's fine. No hard feelings. But yeah, there are two students that I'd like to mention, just because they're dear to my heart for different reasons. So the first is my student Chelsea. So Chelsea was in my first class that I ever taught at Skidmore in 2007. She was an excellent student. She was a neuroscience major, I think psychology double major. And she was my first ever senior thesis student. And so she helped me like pick out chairs for my lab, right? Everything from that to doing this beautiful in-depth case study on pyrolexia, which is a disorder in which individuals have a stroke and have an inability to read afterwards. And so we worked on this project together. It was published in Cognitive Neuropsychology, which is one of the highest neuroscience research journals that's out there. And then she went to graduate school. She had no trouble getting into graduate school directly out of Skidmore because she had those oral presentation skills. She had those scientific writing skills. She knew how to read scientific articles. She knew how to use statistical software to analyze data and visually graph data and think about data. And so she had all of those hands-on skills that most students don't get until they're in graduate school, right? Because that's really what the focus is on in research institutions. And so she went straight on to graduate school. She graduated, and she actually is one of my closest friends. She moved back to Saratoga Springs with her husband that she met here at Skidmore, who was a self-determined major in something combining computer science and fine arts. We go to the same church together and our kids play together. So there used to be like a Instagram or a Facebook hashtag Skid for Life. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I still use that as like, describing my relationship with Chelsea, that, we just have always been Skidmore. And then the other student that I'll mention is Emily. So Emily was a different type of student. She was in two of my classes. She took a statistics class with me and then later took a psychology of language class with me. She was, I don't remember. I think she was biology and maybe music minor. But she was pre-med. She was a pre-health student, and she was very quiet. So super bright, just like aced all the tests, had beautiful writing skills, but very rarely talked, right? So she was just very, very shy and beautifully humble. And so she also had no problem getting into medical school. We have about a 70% acceptance rate into medical school, and the national average is about half that. So she was very well prepared through her bio and psych and neuroscience and chemistry and physics classes to be able to go into to a doctoral to a med school program. Um, I went to Emily's orchestra rehearsal or orchestra concert at the end of her senior year. So again, just appreciating the students for who they are wholly, and not just how we know them in our classes is really important to us. And then her senior year, she was also doing a practicum or an internship at Saratoga Hospital. And my dad had a horrible fall on the sidewalk. He lived locally and was rushed to Saratoga Hospital. And Emily was actually the phlebotomist who just humbly held his hand quietly. Sorry, it's allergies. Just quietly and humbly held his hand, which is exactly what he needed, right? And drew his blood. So, and said, "Hi, Dr. J." As I'm like in the corner, hoping the best for my father. So, right, I mean, like we're just this tight-knit community, and it's just about so much more than, learning the material from these 400 person lectures. Like that's not what you're gonna get. Where you're gonna get small classes. Most of my classes are capped at 18. And so, you're going to know your professors and they're going to know you. And you're going to see them in the community and you're going to go to their houses and you're going to go on field trips with them and study abroad programs with them. And I just love that. It's what I loved as an undergrad at a small liberal arts school. And it's what I continue to love about a place like Skidmore.
Thank you so much for sharing both your experience with both Chelsea and Emily and what you've both you mentioned, Dr. J, of how different they approach their education. We attract students who are wonderful and excited about their next steps. And some may be extroverts, some may be introverts, some are like, I know exactly what I want to do, and some I have no clue what I want to do, and everything in between. And I really appreciate how you specifically harped on the experiences that they were able to do to present regional national conferences, to connect with alumni. I almost want to be a fly on the wall when it comes down to those experiences that you mentioned in Boston in March, but also the wraparound support of being great human beings and giving back in so many beautiful ways. And I couldn't imagine what that moment was for you with your dad and seeing your former student or your lifelong students, Good for Life, to come into to living color in that way as well. And so, Dr. J, can you share a little bit? Specifically about we have so many students and we may have some parents and guardians who are watching as well. Thinking about the ROI, when you think about a liberal arts education, you're thinking about the grad school, professional school. You mentioned a little bit about our acceptance rates to med school, and that is an inclusive number. We do not have guardrails in terms of students who are interested in applying for pre-med. That's an important question to ask different institutions. This is including everyone who's pursuing a pre-med track at Skidmore. Can you share a little bit about why an undergraduate experience like this one can be a differentiator, especially in today's age where students are thinking about AI and they're also thinking about just so many changes. Why the education is so important.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because we have small classes. Like I said, you are gonna know your professors and they're gonna know you. And that provides a really great opportunity for personal growth, right? So It's hard to hide in a class of 10 students. It's hard to come to class unprepared. It's hard to not grow professionally, right? It's hard to not leave the class with better writing skills and better oral presentation skills and information literacy skills. Because, right, the attention is, you're getting it. You're getting all of it right there in the moment. Um, yeah, in psychology, we recently did a survey of a whole bunch of our alum from the past 10 years, and we asked them some really interesting questions. So, we asked them like, what's your favorite class that you took? What are some of the courses that you took that you feel like led to your success at where you are now? We also asked about what kind of skills did you acquire when you were at Skidmore that you felt like were important for your success? And we also asked like questions like how much money are you making? And we also asked questions about like was Skidmore a financially good decision? And we were blown away by the number of yes, it is definitely worth it voices that were in there. I mean, it was like over 90%, right? And we surveyed everybody, right? All of the majors. And you know, I think that's so important, right? That you're gonna leave better than you came, and you should, right? Because you're spending a lot of time and money invested in this. And so, if you're not leaving a better, wholesome thinker and person than you entered, then you're not getting a good, rate of return. And so, students spoke about the writing skills, about the oral skills, about the research skills, about, the ways of thinking about things from different perspectives, the skills that they developed in working collaboratively with other people. We do lots of teamwork, and I don't necessarily mean that to be group work, right? Some of you are like, oh my gosh, please no group work. There's some of that, but research labs are inherently collaborative. I mean, I've got 10 students in my lab, and we're working on wrapping up 4 different research projects this semester so that we can publish them this summer. And, that's hard work, and we need to develop teamwork and collaboration in order to be able to do that. And so, you're not going to get lost in the crowd here because, you're going to be the focus of attention, and you're going to grow in lots of really excellent ways. And those sorts of skills that will help you regardless of what you do, whether you go on to graduate school or med school or law school or jump into industry. Those employers are looking for, an appreciation for how people differ, right? So understanding how to work dynamically with others. They're looking for collaboration and teamwork skills. They're looking for an ability to think critically about things from multiple perspectives, not just a scientific one or a humanistic one or an artistic one. And they're looking for those skills in writing and speaking. And you absolutely have no doubts, even from my own experiences and from our surveys that we've sent out, that you will get all of those things.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you mentioned the survey in that space in many different ways, Dr. J, but really also thinking about the skills that that will translate not only into a job but multiple careers. And so in another wonderful panel with faculty at Skidmore, we were talking with the computer scientists, with folks in different disciplines about the role of AI. And there's recent research sharing that, the upcoming generation, right behind Gen Z, Gen Alpha, are expected to have 3 to 5 careers in their lifetime, not 3 to 5 jobs, 3 to 5 careers in their lifetimes, which is so different. It's a cognitive shift in many different ways. And so you think about all of those transferable skills and building blocks over time and how adaptable and malleable students can be over time. This type of education is one that was designed for that. In many different ways and very much beautifully articulated, Dr. J, based on the different pathways, beginning with the Scribner seminar that our students are able to achieve. So at this moment in time, Dr. J, and of course, we encourage those who are in the chat, whether you're a student or a parent or guardian, we would love to hear from you if you have any specific questions for Dr. J. I know she's excited to hear from you in this way. I would like to actually ask you a few rapid fire questions, if that's all right. And these are more related to just top of mind. And so when you think about this semester, what was the last non-class discussion you've had with a student?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just like walk you through my day today. This morning I had a meeting in my office with my two senior thesis students who are doing projects from start to finish that they started last summer, where they're doing eye tracking experiments, one with children from the local community and bringing them to campus. The other is looking at differences in how we process text from dancers to non-dancers. And we were doing, I'm going to say big words now. We were doing linear mixed effects analyses in R, which is a statistical programming language, to like do these really advanced statistics and understand like what's going on in our data as they wrap up their projects. So that wasn't class-based, right? But those students are doing research for credit, I have, we have plans to present that next March when we also visit with some alumni in Philadelphia, and eventually publish that research. I also met with a first year student who registered for classes already. So she's a rising sophomore. She has no idea what she wants to do. She's one of my Scribner students, and she's taken a whole year's worth of classes in education studies and anthro and social work and art history and management business. And she's like, I still just don't know what I want to do. And so we chatted at length about, different options, career options and post-grad options. What do you like about your classes? What do you not like about your classes? So that we could really get a better sense of what she should be taking in the fall, just so she can really feel confident about that declaration of major when she makes it in next spring. So that was more of like an advising meeting. I also met with a student who wants to declare psychology, and she wants to be one of my advisees, who is interested in majoring in psychology because she wants to be a speech language pathologist. So I am not a speech language pathologist, but it was like my second choice for what maybe I wanted to do with language in the real world. And so I talked with her about like the career path for becoming a speech language pathologist, and talked with her about making connections with our internship center and how she could get course credit or get paid this summer to shadow and work with a speech language pathologist to really like flesh that out. Like, let's like figure out what the day-to-day life looks like so that we can figure out if we actually want to like commit to a graduate school to do that. So that was more like career development or professional development. Trying to think if there are other meetings I had today. Maybe that was it for those. Yeah.
That was a full day, Dr. J. That was definitely a
There's some
full
team
day.
sharing and other stuff in there too. But yeah, just some examples of, I absolutely see my students outside of my classes.
Yes, well, I'm so glad that you mentioned just the spectrum of interests and also highlighting too that our students have the opportunity to ask, faculty members to be their advisor when they're ready to declare, which is such a beautiful gift where students have this time to develop their own voice and then, have that type of mentorship from someone just like yourself, Dr. J, in that space. And so I know that's really special in a lot of ways. Oh, that's so good. So we have a wonderful question from one of our admitted students here, who was really intrigued by what your sharing an example of trips and opportunities where students are presenting. And so, can you share a little bit about, examples of where students go, how they're structured, how it's funded, all those kinds of things?
Absolutely. Great question. I think it's Tom, right? Congratulations, first of all, on your acceptance to Skidmore College. Yeah, so field trips look like a lot of different things at Skidmore. When I teach my first year seminar class, we will often go apple picking because, sometimes people aren't from upstate New York. We attract students from all over the country, all over the world. And so we introduce them to some of like the local traditions of apple picking and pumpkin picking, and we go bowling and, local off-campus adventures. So that's one kind of trip. I also will take students to conferences. So I mentioned the Eastern Psychological Association, but there's other, depending on what discipline you're in, there's professional conferences. And Skidmore has dedicated funds to pay students to go to those conferences, right? So our faculty do have, across our faculty, millions of dollars worth of grant funding from NSF and National Institute of Mental Health, all sorts of other agencies. But separate from that, right, there's Skidmore funds for travel. And so, right, we love this. We love this for you. It's a great way to be able to network, to be able to practice talking about your research professionally. A lot of the conferences will also have graduate school, like how to get into graduate school panels and things like that too. So, and then again, the alumni networking is integrated into some of that too. And so that's another set of adventures that I take students on. And then I've also done some field trips. So I have there's like some other pools of money, some student opportunity funds and some faculty development opportunity funds where I've taken students to various cities like DC or Philadelphia or Boston to take them to museums. So like the Washington DC trip, we went to the Library of Congress. We went to the Planet Word Museum. Oh my gosh, which is so wonderful. Everyone go there this summer. The Museum of the Bible, where we looked at really ancient Torah and just beautiful different writing systems and scripts and these beautiful illuminated, books of biblical history. And then we also did like a walking tour of all the monuments, right, to see how words are memorialized and how quotes are used to represent individuals, just the power of words. So again, right, there's like Skidmore funds that are available for faculty to use for those kinds of adventures. Separate from that, there are study abroad programs, right, where you can take an entire semester or an entire year and go to New Zealand or South Africa or Copenhagen or London or anywhere you want, and be able to take classes that maybe we don't offer, or just take classes that we do offer, but in a different language or in a different culture or community, and be able to transfer in those credits. So there's no lost time. You just take them and bring them in. And then we also have travel seminars, which are usually 1 or 2 week adventures, like in May or in January when we don't have classes. And the semester leading up to that trip, you'll take a class with all of your friends who are going to go on this trip with you, to like learn about, the topic or the country that you're going to be visiting. Barbara Black and President Connor are actually going to Ireland. Is that right? And so they're doing an Ireland travel seminar this semester that a couple of my students are in. Yeah, those are the fun outings that we do.
Absolutely amazing. And I know that I did not cover all of the different opportunities that Dr. J has mentioned, but if you're taking a look at the chat, we have provided links to our See Beyond Summer Funding Program, the Miranda Family Fellowship, which is specifically designed for students who are active in the performing arts, theater arts, but maybe pursuing internships that are unpaid. This particular fellowship is designed for students to take part in that particular program, as well as the Skidmore Summer Experience Fund, where we have over 100 students who receive that fund every year, in many different ways. And so many different opportunities. And as Dr. J mentioned, study abroad is definitely one that many of our students take full advantage of, and the total cost of attendance to study abroad at Skidmore, we keep that consistent across the board, whether you're studying here in Saratoga Springs or abroad. across the globe. And so ensuring that students are able to take full advantage of that. Thank you so much for that question, Tom. I'm sure others may have had a very similar questions as well. So I think we have time for a couple of more, if that's all right, Dr. J. We have a student who is still deciding between a large R1 institution, research institution, and Skidmore, and that's type of space. And so it's so interesting to kind of talk through a little bit about what that looks like. And so, can you kind of give us like a kind of a double, what from your perspective, especially knowing that you've had students study at both?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the big research institutions are where you're going to go for graduate school, 100%, right? Like that, they're the ones that have the graduate programs. They have, the big, the huge names out there. They've got these massive grants where they can bring in postdoctoral fellows and pay graduate students with those funds. The small liberal arts schools, I will say, the key difference is that the focus is on you. And so, when you're thinking about where you want to go as an undergrad, having the spotlight on you is kind of nice, when you're the focus of attention. I will say that I have the same equipment in my lab, the eye tracking device and the sound spectrogram coding and all the computers and fancy stuff and the funding for research. I have all that same stuff that my colleagues at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and UC Davis and University of South Florida, all those Research One institutions have. And we're publishing in the same journals and presenting at the same conferences. But the difference is that when I publish or when we go to present, it's my undergraduate students who are presenting next to their graduate students or their professors. And so, there are opportunities for research as an undergrad at those bigger schools, but they're harder to get, really hard to get. And it's more of like shadowing. It's more of like observing what's going on. Whereas here, you're not observing. Like my students were coding the linear mixed effects analyses this morning, and they're doing the data visualization. And so they're learning how to design an experiment, right? Not just like learning about an experiment that somebody else is doing for their PhD, but they're designing a study, right? And they're running the participants. They're, writing it all up and they're wrestling with like, how do we do this? And so it's just another step removed when you're at a bigger place. Um, uh, yeah, so that's what I would say is the main difference.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. J, especially from your lens. I've had the wonderful opportunity to serve and to work with students in the admission process from a large research one institution to a medium-sized liberal arts to a medium-sized, as I like to call us, liberal arts college here at Skidmore. And what I truly appreciate is that I think we have the best of all of those pieces with the special touch of close-knit community while also having, as a chemistry major in college myself, a spectacular facility for those who are thinking about STEM research, all the way to research in the humanities and the arts and the visual arts as well, and the medley and the experiences that students can overlap. I recently had the opportunity to see a recent graduate. Her name is Francie, physics major, dance minor at Skidmore, who just completed a fellowship at the University of Michigan after graduating last May, and has been accepted to 7 PhD programs, which is spectacular in many different ways, and came back to say hello to our physics professors, to folks in was one of our student admissions guides, who also danced and really wanted to do both during their experience, who is a whole human being in many different ways, and still thriving. And that is not one experience, it's one of several experiences that just she's been able to have. And so, Dr. J, you highlighted that even with Chelsea and Emily and so many other students that you've mentioned. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful, wonderful. So, as we begin to wrap up our time today, I really appreciate you all. I see that several of you who are with us have been with us. I know I am super glued to hearing from Dr. J every time I'm in the Zoom room or in a physical room with you. I learned so much. I'm a sponge in many different ways. But Dr. J, especially as a professor, as a mentor, as a mom of a high school senior, even at this moment in time, what advice would you give to a student who's thinking about that next step, or even to a parent or guardian who's thinking like, how do I support my child going through this process? What advice would you give?
That's a great question. I think that when you go to different places, make sure that when you make your decision, make sure that you're committing to a place where you can think and play and grow, right? That you are at a place that really challenges how you're thinking about the world, right? That you leave a smarter person than you first started, and that you're not only like learning a whole bunch about the one thing that you might care about, but also that you're learning how to think from different perspectives, right? And consider other people's perspectives and incorporate that into, what you might be thinking and like how to wrestle with ideas. So make sure that it's a place where you can think, right? That you like really engage and wrestle with material. Make sure it's a place where you can play, right? So, whether that's with play credits or something else, make sure that it's got it has the clubs that you want, that it's got the sports that you want, that it's got, the friends that you want, that it's got, the minors, and, kind of extracurricular opportunities that you want. That it's a place that academically you can play too, right? That there's room for you to do more than one thing if that's what you'd like to do. So, because it's so wholesome, right? It's good for you to be able to explore lots of different things and play a little bit. And then grow, right? So, you should try new things, right? This is a great opportunity for you to jump into things that you've never seen or done before. And so make sure that it's a place where they encourage you and they provide you with the supports and the resources so that you can grow into that person that you want to be in 4 years, right? When you're on the other end, figuring out what life looks like after college. Yeah.
Great advice. I almost want to go back, almost. I want to go back and redo my entire college experience, and especially during this time of year, because Dr. J, you have done this in the Skidmore community at large, does this so well. Where I'm like, oh my dear goodness, can I redo this experience? And it has a lot to do with the level of care and the advice that you have just shared, which I think is wonderful. But I love, just as you began our conversation with play, really thinking about that experience and taking that whimsy that comes with this academic journey along with you. So, thank you, thank you, Dr. J, for your wonderful, wonderful pieces of advice, but just a share of your experience, and also for those who are watching, whether live or through the recording. Thank you for staying with us as well. Dr. J is one of several faculty members who are excited to engage so greatly. All of our faculty members have come to Skidmore because they want to teach as well as research, and that is our mission. That is why we are here. And so, if you do would like to stay connected with us, we want to stay connected with you. If you have an interest in visiting campus, we are scheduling class visits. We have a couple of weeks left before that time ends before the end of the semester here at Skidmore, we would love to get you connected with a professor in an area of interest that's important to you or a current student, if you're really understanding what that looks like for you moving forward. If you're coming for upcoming Yes Day, whether you're a first year student or a transfer student, we're excited to see you all. Or even if you're unable to visit with us, we look forward to seeing you hopefully this fall as a part of the class of 2030. But once again, thank you all so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you soon. Until next time, take good care, everyone.
Congratulations.